Good morning. Please be seated. We welcome everybody to the Roll Room on what I think is a very historical occasion here today. I want to recognize with me the Lieutenant Governor, Spencer Thomas, who is here with us. Appreciate his attendance. Also, Supreme Court Chief Justice Matthew Grant, a longtime friend of my family and his father, and my family go way back. He's been doing such an outstanding job as the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court. As most of you here would probably know and appreciate, one of the most important things that I do as governor is appoint people to the bench. It's one of the most important things that I do that nobody ever talks to me much about. It's not quite as well discussed in political circles as probably it deserves. It doesn't get as much attention as it does. But we've had an opportunity now to fill a vacancy. And the vacancy is caused because of Supreme Court Justice Ronald is retiring after serving 11 years on the Supreme Court and another 8 years as a district court judge. And so we certainly want to thank Judge Nehring for his great public service on the bench for nearly 20 years and wishing him well in whatever his future endeavors happen to be. But with his retirement, we have a vacancy now on the Supreme Court. And it's critical that we put people, men and women on the bench who are men of integrity, that have appropriate judicial demeanor, that have intellect and scholarly attributes of understanding the law, and then have demonstrated in their practice with their experience that they know how in fact adjudicate appropriately and uphold the rule of law and follow the Constitution. Now, throughout the process, I can tell you, I've gone through and searching for the replacement for Judge Deno. There is good news, and we've had a number of really good, capable, qualified candidates. And the good news, although that makes it difficult for me to pick the one, it means that who I pick is really going to be an outstanding judge. And the nominee today is certainly no exception to that. I really have had the opportunity to choose from the very best that Utah has to offer for the Supreme Court. And so today I'm pleased to announce the nomination for the Utah Supreme Court as Judge Constandinos G, who's here to my left. Step forward, Judge. Judge Himonas has served with distinction for a decade on the district court level. He has just glowing recommendations from his colleagues on the bench and others in the legal circles that have to participate in his court. I've observed him for the past 10 years and his work in private practice too. The job of the Supreme Court judge is one that has important writing skills, analytical skills, the ability to dissect the pros and cons and render a decision when it comes to legal questions that go to the highest court in our state here, the Supreme Court of Utah. He's known for his personal, professional integrity. And it was interesting to have the comments from people that have worked with him, alongside him, and those who've been before his court. And they talk about, regardless of the outcome, they know that we've had a fair process, one that's been laced with integrity in the process, and the decision that's been made has been one based on law and based on integrity. I have every confidence in Judge Himonas to follow in the footsteps of other great Supreme Court justices that we have had and do have currently on the Supreme Court on that bench. I believe he's a man not only of integrity, but a man of hard work. It is hard work to be on the Supreme Court. The workload is exceptional, and I know he's going to give it 100% in his efforts to make sure that the people of Utah are well served. So it was a great pleasure that I bring this nomination before us today, and we look forward to the Senate confirmation. Senator Wyler, I see is here representing the Senate. We're honored to have you here, Todd. And we look forward to working through that process as we get a Judge Himonas confirmed to the Supreme Court. So with that, let me just turn some time for Judge Himonas to say just a few words. He can't speak a lot because we have a confirmation process going on before the Senate. Please, Judge, say a few words.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor, Chief Justice, friends and family. For the past 10 years, I have had the privilege of serving the people of the state as a district court judge. Apologize for my voice, by the way. In that capacity, something I have always tried to remember is that the cases we hear as judges represent either the most important thing going on in the lives of the people in front of us, or one of the most important things. And consequently, I have tried to give those cases the full measure of my abilities. And if confirmed, I commit to this degree of dedication. It's certainly one the people of this great state deserve. Thank you.
Well, we're honored to have Judge Himonas be willing to accept the nomination. And when I called to let him know, I asked him, have you changed your mind? You still want me to put your name forward to the Supreme Court? And he said yes. And he was very enthused about the opportunity and the possibility of serving on our Supreme Court. I know he's going to do a great job. So again, welcome, Judge. We'll look forward to Senate confirmation. And Judge Durant, you're going to have another great colleague on the bench to work with you on these important issues that face us in this state. With that, we thank you for your attendance. If there are a few questions, I'm happy to take some questions that you may have. Any? You don't feel like you have to ask any questions.
So, yeah, of course.
Of course, Ronald. You have a perfect day.
Can you talk a little bit about the search process, the criteria you use to make the selection?
Well, first people have to apply. So we are fortunate that we have some of the best and brightest, of the state, particularly in the private sector, that say I had an opportunity and have a desire to give public service. Invariably in the interview process, when we ask them why do you want to be a judge, why do you want to be on the Supreme Court, it's not anything more than we like to be able to give back to the community, which has been good to them. Particularly those in the private sector that come to this and say, it's just an opportunity to serve. And so the motivation that I found, which is encouraging to me, is really one of goodwill, public service, and a desire to give back to the state that they love. So as we have many of these people apply, then there's a sifting process they go through, an extensive interview process, and the numbers, which are many, get down to the numbers that are few. And in this particular case, it got down to 7. And those 7 came to me for personal interviews. That number was then dwindled to 4 with the second interview, and then to 2, and then to 1. And so that process is pretty exhaustive. It takes us some period of time. It's thorough, it's in-depth, and the good news for the people who tell is that I've had really some very good nominees to pick from, and I picked the best one for the right fit for the Supreme Court for today.
Governor, ideology is often brought up with U.S. Supreme Court ones. How much of a role does that play in the state Supreme Court? Is that a consideration?
No. Questions we don't ask, one is what your political persuasion is. We don't ask about philosophy and life. We do expect our judges, and this is a question, how do you separate your political philosophy, whatever it may be, to be able to render a decision from the bench that's apolitical. I expect all of our judges to be apolitical when it comes to rendering a decision on the bench as they apply the law to the facts of the case. And we have, I think, a great bench, judiciary in the state of Utah, because it is apolitical. It is unfortunate, I think, on a federal level, there seems to be litmus tests and more political posturing than is probably warranted if you're going to have an effective bench that judiciary, the public at large, can have confidence in. So I'm glad to see we're not like the federal bench, and I think we actually have more consistency, and our judges are very much, as they render decisions, apolitical.
Aside from the political, overall conservative viewpoint? I mean, were you looking for somebody who you consider to be a strict constructionist of the law?
I expect all of our judges to be strict constructionists, meaning that they interpret the law that's on the books and the way that is intended by our legislature. If the laws are not correct, then we need to have the legislature correct them and fix it. That's not the role of the judge, and we don't have a judiciary that does that. And so, again, all of our interviews and the responses are those of judges that say we will adhere to the rule of law and uphold the laws put on the books by our legislature.
Anyone else? Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks, everybody. Congratulations again. Judge Himonas, you're going to do great. Let's get a picture here.